Today, we're going to deal with one of the more common questions. I get it a lot, and I looked, and apparently it's a big deal on the internet and social media as well. And it's how do I balance work and life? The work-life balance challenge. So when I look at this, my thought is if we're going to have a healthy work-life balance, we often instinctively think about allocating our time more effectively on one side or another, like it's a zero-sum game, a bigger slice of the pie, if you will. But I would say the conflict and stress between work and life is primarily a mindset problem and an attention management problem designed as a time allocation problem. So in my world, time is not something we manage. It's a fundamental constraint on what we're able to do in the world. What we can effectively manage is our attention. And doing the kind of work that most of us do, our attention is our primary productive asset. So we need to manage it fairly carefully. There's a couple of components to a mind shift that we need to kind of get into here. So the first, and this is going to be counterintuitive, so bear with me, embrace the notion that it's all work. You see, your brain doesn't differentiate between things you need to do for money and things you need to do in the rest of your life. So your brain doesn't distinguish between those things. It's just stuff that needs to be done. Now, things that you do for money tend to have more direct deadlines on them. But once you get past that, your brain works the very same way on all of these things that we need to get done. So if you want to define it, then it's well, work, that is. If you want to define work, it's all the tasks that you undertake to transform yourself, your environment, and your relationships into what you want them to be. And so taking that perspective removes the barrier, for one, and it allows for more unified attention management. That is, you are able to view your attention as one thing, and how you allocate it then is not this seesaw dichotomy between work and life. Also, we want to master the notion of self-management. That's one of the challenges that we face in the modern world is we're being managed less and less directly. So, and in our work. And so we need to get good at it there, but also in our lives. Okay. There's nobody that's managing us to do those sorts of things. So we need to manage ourselves. And this is a real growth exercise. As you learn to manage yourself, one of the keys is to learn what you need to be doing and what you don't. And we'll talk about some components of this as we go forward. So I want to leave you with several, in fact, in this case, actionable steps. So bookmark this and come back to it with your pencil. Okay. Um, we want to get a work management system going, and we want to apply it both to things we do for money and things we do for other rewards. So the first thing that we want to do is implement a task backlog, and the backlog contains everything. It contains taking the dog to the vet, and it contains the meeting with your boss next Thursday. Everything. And in that sense, we can really see what's going on with these tasks that are not for money. Two, we want to conduct regular reviews of how we're doing, regular reviews of, am I getting my things done? Regular reviews of that backlog so that we can see what our priorities are on an ongoing basis because they change pretty often. Okay. And you have priorities at home just like you have priorities at work. So that's another piece of this mindset that we got. We want to practice time boxing. That is, we want to say, look, I've got X amount of time to apply to this. And so I'm going to do it within that time frame. Now, this is a little bit more aggressive than many people prefer to be on, say, the weekends. So it doesn't have to be a tight limit, but we do for things like chores. We want to figure out how we can get them done with the minimum possible amount of attention spent on them because we really don't care We just know that they need to get done. So time boxing. Another big key is to learn how to say no. Learn where the boundaries are, and this particularly in your job, but also in some ways in some of your relationships. And learn effective ways to say, hey, that's not something I'm going to engage in right now. I love you, but that's not a thing that's going to go on my list. Maybe I could help you find somebody to help you with that kind of language, but practice it and master saying it. A lot of times we take our work where we feel like we can't say no, and we go to home with it and we feel like we can't say no there either. So we've just got to figure out good ways to say no and good boundaries and limits. In everything we do, we want to optimize the quality of our product. And optimal quality is not perfection. Okay, perfection is not attainable, and we got to be careful. A lot of our perfectionism is based in fear, and that causes us to give things more attention than they really deserve, and they grow out of all proportion to their importance in our lives. Another idea is to identify the routine activities, and I use the phrase operationalize the routine activities. So we want to automate those. Okay, we want to take a minute to maybe automate the bill pay. We want to take a minute to maybe do some meal prep when we have the opportunity so it doesn't take as much time later in the week. So thinking about how we can put process in place and be more efficient with some of those other tasks that consume our attention. We want to really think hard about developing a completionist mindset. In other words, when we sit down to do something, we want to complete it, because task switching is a major enemy for our attention. So avoid thinking, well, I'm just going to push this along for a little. Set a goal, sit down, do the goal. And then when you get back up, you're done and your brain can let go of at least that part of the project. Undone tasks stick in our brains and give us this worry, stress response. Absolutely work to eliminate multitasking in your life. Human beings are no good at multitasking. So if it's important work, make sure that you focus on it, get it done, and then move on to the next thing rather than trying to juggle or spin plates, because the task switching is a huge overhead in our lives there. So if we take these practices, these mindsets, and we integrate them, then we can reduce our stress around this notion of work-life balance. And we can just recognize that our work is our work, and we're accomplishing things in the world that produce the kind of experience that we want to have. And that helps us become more effective and less exhausted. And if you're less exhausted, then you're moving in the direction of who you truly want to be. For more help on work-life balance, see the Do Busy Right podcast, episode 79. I've linked it in the description. I'll leave it there for now.